Hey, everybody out there, you're tuned in to 91.8 The Fan. You're in my corner, and I have a returning guest in the corner that apparently we're going to cower in fear from. What would you like to introduce yourself to the masses?
Sure, I'll sign in, please. My name is Mike Pollock. I'm a voiceover actor.
And welcome back to the show. It's actually been, I think, a little under a year since we last talked.
Something like that.
Something like that, yes. Actually, no, March 23rd, 2010. I can't believe I can remember the date.
I Googled it to find that out, but yes, you're absolutely right.
But basically, actually, a lot has changed in the Sonic world since we last talked.
Yes, I guess it has.
I mean, a lot of the I guess the older voice actors or the 4Kids voice actors aren't necessarily a part of the series anymore, and we have a whole slew of voice actors and actresses to adapt to the new cast and all that stuff. But you actually got to continue playing your signature role.
Yes, it was not the seamless transition that I would have hoped it would be. I actually had to re-audition for the role, but the good news is apparently that worked. So they liked me, so I'll take that.
Well, when you re-auditioned, did you think you were going to get it? I mean, I would assume if you've voiced something for so long, you wouldn't have much of a doubt.
Well, I just did what I had been doing in my audition. I said, "Okay, I'm re-auditioning for this. Well, I'll do what I've been doing because that's what I know how to do." And I kind of hoped that it would go my way, and I guess it did. But it's the nature of the business. Any audition is just like any audition. Sometimes you book it, sometimes you don't. And if you don't, you move on. And if you do, it's really cool.
Now, I know 4Kids, the studio there was in New York. Did the studio move to another location for the new one?
Four Kids is still there. It's just not doing the Sonic stuff. But
Hmm.
as far as the most of the production is done out of LA for the video games for Sonic, except for me. They put me in a New York studio with a high-speed digital ISDN line, and they basically talk to me over the headphones, and I talk back to them, and it sounds like they're right next door.
Wonderful. I love
It,
technology.
it's basically like high-tech Skype, except it doesn't like that after a while.
I know my Skype always does that. Like when I'm uploading or downloading,
Exactly.
it likes to get all crackly and I become a robot.
Yes.
So
Thank you, Skype.
yes, it's so nice. I actually just had to downgrade my Skype because the latest version wasn't loading add a contact, so I couldn't add anyone to my friends list.
And what they'll tell you is, what do you want? It's free.
Well, actually, they kept telling me to upgrade to the latest version of Skype, but I was on the latest version of Skype.
Well, that'll learn you.
Yeah, love it so much. So, in the latest game in the Sonic franchise, I got a little tip from my producer that you got to be in two places at once, essentially.
Yes, I was standing. I was standing in exactly the same spot when I was recording, but I got to follow in the dual role footsteps of such greats as Patty Duke in The Parent Trap from the 50s or 60s, whenever that was, and Eddie Murphy and I guess Dustin Hoffman to a sense in Tootsie. So yes, I'm thrilled to do a double role. I've actually done a few. I was in Sonic X, for example. I was Dr. Eggman and Ella the maid, but I have never been two versions of the same character essentially traveling through time.
Now, was that entertaining to be able to argue with yourself, essentially?
Kind of, it was just like real life since I'm always talking to myself in real life. It was no real difference. It was this time I was on the clock for it. But it was fun. It was, I mean, in one sense of the word, it was of the performance. It was just reading words on a page. But in another sense, like, oh, okay, I'm just talking to myself as myself, and isn't that weird? It was fun.
And now, did you try to different, what is the word I'm looking for?
Differentiate.
Yes, that's the
Thank
word.
you.
Thank you very
And
much.
ding, 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 10 points for me.
Yes.
The only conversation that came up about that was the higher ups say he sounds the same. So he pretty much sounded the same, which is interesting because some people have said, wow, you sounded so different as the two Eggmans. Not really.
Well, when
I,
I listened to it, because I got the chance right before the interview, it seemed like the older one, I guess, sounded a little bit more proper, but I didn't hear much of a voice change.
yeah, there wasn't much of a voice change. I don't even remember it because it was about a year ago that we recorded that. And I'm trying to remember if we recorded it in sequence, old guy, new guy, old guy, new guy, or if we did all the old guys and all the new guys together. And I don't remember. I'm guessing that if we did all the old guys and then all the new guys, that probably by the time I was done with all the old guys and then finished all the new guys, I'd forgotten what I sounded like in the first place. So that could account for any difference. But I do remember them saying there's no difference. So if there was a difference, I wasn't doing it right.
Well, that makes your job easier, though.
Yes, exactly. Much less to think about.
And now, one thing that the live chat wanted me to ask about specifically is your crazy, crazy laugh. Does that ever put it too much of a strain on your voice?
Laughing, no. Yelling and screaming does, but the only challenge to laughing, for example, when I have a slight cold like I do, or a much worse cold as I did for parts of Sonic X, going woo hoo, hoo, isn't usually easy. So I have had a stunt laugher on occasion in Sonic X.
A stunt laugher. I have
Yes.
never heard of that before.
Yes, it wasn't common knowledge. In fact, no one really told me until I kind of noticed it while listening to an episode. But my highly trained ears determined that the stunt laugher was a man whose name rhymes with Stan Freem. Who
Hmm.
could that be? I don't know.
Well, we'll just have to think about that one, do a little bit of
Yes,
research.
yes,
But no, that's actually really interesting because you always hear about stunt doubles for, acting, but you don't really hear it necessarily for voice acting. So I learned something new today.
see, that doesn't happen very often, but in the case of a laugh, which I guess they could get away with it with a wacky sounding laugh, it's done if it's necessary.
Well, there is so many video games nowadays and shows nowadays where you're screaming all the time. So I can understand, losing your voice from something like that, especially if it's like a war game where it's like, get down, grenade.
Right. And that has happened. I have had long running late night sessions, and it's part of the fun. If you exert yourself into hoarseness, it's going to damage your voice for a couple days, but it is great fun, and it really makes you feel like you're working for whatever you're being paid, because it's like I'm breaking a sweat. That doesn't normally happen when I'm just standing in a room yelling.
Hey, at least you're getting your exercise though.
Exactly. It's good
I,
for the cardiovascular system. It's aerobics.
I wish I got exercise doing this, but I'm not really screaming into the mic. So
Well, feel free to get up and jog around the room. I won't tell anyone.
Well, one other question that the live chat wanted me to ask is they were curious if you had a particular game or a moment from a game that you really liked above others.
I really enjoy the parts of Sonic X for the cartoon specifically when Dr. Eggman would break the fourth wall and talk right to the audience. My favorite moment of that was in one of the episodes. He receives a phone call from a viewer, which, while logistically impossible, it was quite amusing because he answered the phone with a very uncharacteristic hello and was talking to someone watching the program. I thought that was very clever.
Very awesome. And now, between the time that we've talked, are there any other projects that you've worked on specifically?
Lots of little things, some things that are worth mentioning, some things I can't mention, some things, if I mention, no one will see them anyway. Probably the coolest are some stuffed animals from Gund, the very fancy toy company. I am, among other things, an animated plush mummy with a voice somewhat reminiscent of film legend Boris Karloff. Happy Halloween! And I am also a snoring Papa Bear talking to my little son who's on my belly, which rises and falls with my breathing and snoring. And I keep falling asleep like that. It's very nice.
Well, I'm very glad you mentioned Boris Karloff because now I actually know who that is because
Exactly.
actually earlier in the year, if you would have mentioned that like our last interview, I wouldn't have known right away. But the last Halloween and the Halloween before that, I've been watching old black and white movies.
He's also the narrator for the classic animated version of Dr. Seuss's How the Grinch Stole Christmas.
See, that I did not know.
Yes, that's one of well, he's not it may not be his best known work for adults, but for kids, that's how most people would know him. Every who down in Whoville like Christmas a lot. That was him.
Sadly, I didn't see the original Grinch this year at Christmas. I
Oh,
watched the new one.
that's I'm sure if you go to a site that rhymes with Mew Schnoob, you'll find it there.
You're very subtle. I love it.
Thank you.
Well, since we're on the topic of Christmas, what did you do for Christmas?
Hung around with the family. Same thing for New Year's. It's safer that way.
It is because if you go anywhere, especially after partying, it's not very smart.
Exactly. But home with the family, having a grand old time.
Because I live in Las Vegas, and so during New Year's, it's better just to stay indoors or be on the
Yeah.
strip and never leave.
Yes, I'm close enough to Manhattan to be able to go to Times Square, but that would be stupid.
Oh my gosh, that would be insane.
Yes.
But we're going to take a short break here on 91.8 The Fan and see what other wonderful things happened on the holidays. So keep it tuned to your favorite station where we play everything you want and nothing you don't.
You need to cry. Let's brainstorm. I could hit you over the head with a wrench, or I could stab you in the gut with the knife. Knife wrench! Practical and safe.
Are you tired of crappy ideas that don't work? So are we. So we invented 918 The Fan. 918 The Fan. Everything you want to hear, nothing you don't.
Knife wrench! For kids.
Hey, everybody out there, you're tuned in to 91.8 The Fan. My special guest is still here. Are you?
As far as I can tell,
Oh,
I'm
yes.
somewhere.
Somewhere. A
Yeah.
floating voice somewhere on the interwebs.
I'm disembodied.
That,
And we all know how painful that can be.
that could be pretty painful. I'm just saying. But we were actually talking behind the scenes about conventions and events you might be at or events that you would like to be at. Would you like to elaborate?
Sure. One of the best ways, in my opinion, to get invited to conventions is to have the devoted fan base badger their local conventions. Hey, you should invite Mike Pollock to be a guest at the convention. So if you do that, I will bring along the special Mike Pollock branded virtual dunk tank, which involves me dressing up in a classic 1920s striped bathing costume, complete with straw hat, and you'll have the opportunity to throw nice, soft, squishy projectiles at me. There will be no actual water, but as you air your gripes about the anime industry, you can feel the cathartic joy of getting your frustrations out by throwing the ball, and I will make a reassuring sploosh sound.
Now, have you gotten to test this out anywhere?
I actually have. I've done it at three separate cons. The first one, I forgot to bring in my own balls. So that was, yes, take that out of context. So we had to make a mad dash to the dollar store to pick up some nice soft Nerf balls of some kind. The second one was slightly more organized, and a great fun time was had by all. And then the most recent one, I finally decided, well, if this is going to be a thing, I should invest some money and get the fake bathing costume, which I did. Put it on, looked really stupid in it, which was part of the effect because it was funny. And it ended up turning into a freewheeling discussion, not so much of anime gripes, but a political, racially charged free-for-all talk show, which wasn't my intention. But I just watched the clock until it was time for that to run its course, and I slinked away.
Well, I hope nobody has tried to hit you in the face with these.
Not yet, or if they have, their aim hasn't been good. But I make sure that only these soft, foamy balls, take that one out of context, kids, are the ones that are used.
And now, I would think that running a panel like this, you would actually know a little bit more into the fans' insight of some of the things that they dislike. Have you learned anything?
I've learned that there are many anime references that I don't get. 'Cause they're complaining about, and rightfully so, they're complaining about obscure things. It's basically like every Star Trek convention parody bit you've ever seen. In episode 428A, where you say, they do that whole thing, and it's, they're complaining about obscure little things that only apparently would bother them, but then suddenly everyone else chimes in, yeah, I feel like that too.
I must be a bad fan. I don't remember like episodes lines are said.
Well, feel free to come to a virtual dunk tank and feel the rage and the wrath. And I just sit there like a good moderator and say, I can't help you, but feel free to get your frustrations out, and you can feel free to throw projectiles at anyone else in the crowd that you like. I'm insured.
Like the best part. Actually, it's funny. We have a panel called Anime Music Trivia, and we did it at AAC one year. And the co-owner was with me, and his name is Zach. And he did two very terrible things because people win candy when they get the answers right. So one time he threw the candy, and he got it stuck in the roof, in the ceiling somehow.
I hate when that happens.
And like I don't know how you can really do that, but somehow he managed it, and the next time he smacked somebody right in the eye with candy.
Apparently maybe the very spiky candy with the pointy edges that stick right in any soft surface.
Must have been a Reese's Pieces.
Yes.
But at least you're not going to get sued for the squishy balls, but we might be sued for the candy one day.
Yes. Well,
That
so
or he
far,
needs to improve his aim.
yes. So far, no armed guards have been necessary. It hasn't erupted into violence. Came pretty close with the racially charged incident, but it's been fun for the most part.
And do you have any conventions coming up in 2012?
My convention calendar is so empty that boy, it would be great to have it filled by anyone who can put in a good word in their favorite convention for me.
Well, I know that I will be doing that because I think you're a blast to have on
Thank,
the show. So
thank you so much.
you must be
I'm
even
even
better
more
in real
fun in
life.
person. What?
Yes. So, is there any other projects that you want to pimp out that we might not have talked about yet?
Sure. I would like to, on my website at itsamike.com, there's a little mic marketplace that's going on. The stuff that's there that's for sale, there's the voice for hire how-to book that I have a couple of pages about animation that I wrote. Apart from my 2 pages, the rest of the book is also very, very good, but buy it just for my 2 pages alone. There is also the audiobook that I did. Uh, if you like listening to me for a 30-minute TV episode or a few hours of gameplay, you'll love to me talk physics for 15 hours in the audiobook that I did, which is available on my website from audible.com. And then possibly the coolest gigs that I've ever had, the lovely Gund stuffed animal company has chosen to put my voice in several animated plush figures, of which both the two that are available are on my website for sale, conveniently enough. The Menacing Mummy, where I sound vaguely like Boris Karloff, saying, "Oh, Happy Halloween," and the Snoring Papa Bear and Sun Bear, which is me with my little bearling on my tummy going up and down to the rhythm of my breathing. And every time he tries to talk to me, I just fall asleep and snore.
Well, the mummy is cute. I pulled that up right now because I was on your website and then I noticed the video. So that's actually really adorable.
Thank you. Like me, they're also even cuter in person. So buy a whole caseload. Distribute them liberally throughout this holiday season.
And is there any place where fans can keep up to date on what you're doing, like Facebook or Twitter, or is it just your website?
The website is good, but for more late break, the website has big promotable things. But for the smaller promotable things, I am on both on Facebook and Twitter. It's a Mike is usually the thing to search for, and you'll find me.
Wonderful. And is there anything else you'd like to tell the listeners out there?
Watch whatever I'm in. Occasionally buy stuff that I'm selling, and get me to your con, and say hi on Facebook. Just don't badger me with small talk.
Well, can they ask you questions on your Facebook? Do you have enough time for that, or?
Usually, yes, but don't ask things like, "So, how's your day? What's the weather like?" If you want to know the weather, Google New York. You'll find out what the weather's like. And if there's anything I could talk about what I've done, I'll be promoting it anyway. But if you have specific questions about what's it like to do dubbing or voiceover work or stuff like that, yeah, nice, productive questions. Don't ask if I like dogs. No one cares whether I like dogs. So yeah, don't badger me with small talk. That's all I ask.
Do you like dogs?
I have a dog.
Well, if it makes you feel better, I have a cat and a dog too.
Thank you. Notice I didn't say I like the dog. I just have the dog.
Well, I'm in the same boat though.
Uh-huh. You don't have to like an animal to have one.
That's very true. And for the
Some
listener,
people, well, to paraphrase a famous quote, some people achieve dogs, other people have dogs thrust upon them.
that's exactly what's happened to me.
See? Exactly. So you grin and bear it, and you vacuum up the fur.
We have a Shih Tzu. It's my Nana's, and essentially, it's an 11-year-old dog who snores, and my mom always puts her in my room when she leaves. She leaves at like 4 a.m, and I have a cat, and my cat does not like that at all. So not only does she wake me up with her snoring, but my cat's always trying to kill her.
Well, that's fun.
It's so much fun.
Best of luck with that.
Hopefully your dog isn't as bad.
No, he's just stupid.
Oh, okay. Well, that's kind of usual for dogs.
Yes. In fact, if my dog were to have a voice, which he often does when I'm around him, he kind of sounds something like this. "Hey there, I'm the dog. I'm a little dopey."
Well, that's one way to practice voice acting.
Yes, absolutely.
Do you have any other rituals for practicing?
I just talk to myself. I'll wander around the house, usually when I'm alone, just doing voices and just seeing what happens to them. I'm more than happy to develop a character on the spot at an audition, but every once in a while I just amuse myself by either mimicking a voice that I've heard, like voices of my relatives who may occasionally turn into characters, or a voice that my dumb dog should have, or just wacky accents that I've heard, while being out on the street or listening to the radio or something, and saying, "Well, isn't that a brilliant accent? Let's work on that."
And I
So talk.
assume, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, don't be afraid to talk to yourself. That's the short answer.
Well, I assume, being in the business as long as you have, it's been easier to be a little out there and talking to yourself as long as you're alone.
Yes, exactly. I have no problem with it.
Yes, but thankfully you don't go to Starbucks talking in a southern drawl or anything like that.
Exactly. It's bad enough when people have asked me to Skype from Starbucks, which I've tried once. It doesn't really work well, mostly because Starbucks is always playing loud music in the background.
Yeah, there's that. And there's also the fact it smells like coffee,
Yes.
which can be very distracting to some people.
Yes, exactly. I would be up there drinking constantly.
But we're getting completely off topic, and
Are we?
yes, we are. But thank you so much. It was nice to catch up with you, and we'll keep our eyes peeled to your web zones.
Please, there's always something going on, whether I can discuss it or not.
And for anybody out there that missed any of this interview, don't fret. It'll be up on the website within the next few days. So keep it tuned to 91.8 The Fan. Everything you want and nothing you don't.